In the meantime, if there is a question that you'd like to ask us, there is a chat button in the Zoom webinar. There's also a Q&A button. So feel free to ask any questions throughout. We will get through your questions and chat through the end of the webinar. So today's agenda, we're just going to go through a quick overview about fiber plants, outside plants, inside plants. We have a couple of polling questions to ask you, the audience. Then Jason will go through a very quick high-level overview of our net trained outside plants. If you do want to see a more custom demo based on your requirements, your needs, you can feel free to email us or visit our website to request a demo. So an overview. So our fiber plants will help you to visualize your fiber infrastructures, meaning all your outside cables, conduits, pathways, duct banks. So you can visualize that entire infrastructure from high level to your buildings, homes, down to the street levels, and eventually down to the strands and ports of, for example, a splice enclosure or an LIU port. So you can visualize the entire infrastructure, again, going all the way from the high level all the way down to the ports. So you can manage the entire fiber capacity with a matter of a couple of clicks in net trained outside plants. And we help customers to help better design the capacity of their fiber, to help manage the fiber capacity, and to search for information quickly, and as well as see if there's any available circuits or paths available that you can connect, say, from building to building. What are the available fiber strands that I can utilize? So why do you need a fiber plant solution? So many organizations that use NetTrain, just a little background about our company, Graphical Networks. We started this company back in November 2007. Our software NetTrain was first launched in 2009, and we're currently in version, Jason, help me if I'm wrong, 9.1. We're going to be releasing that version 9.5 in about a month or two. So we have more than 300 organizations using NetTrain today, and some very large enterprise businesses to consultants that need help document their clients' networks. So do you really need a fiber plant solution? Or the Google Earth diagrams and spreadsheets enough for you? Or is it driving you bananas? Can you go all the way down to the actual fiber and the strands to help manage your capacity better? As well as the ability to find information faster, the ability to find available circuit paths. Can you do all those different tasks? So I'm going to pop up the first polling question. How do I do this? Launch. All right. So how do you currently document your fiber infrastructure right now? I select more than one answer. So I don't know. It's all in my brain. Use Google Earth, Visio, spreadsheets, or other. So I'll leave this up for another 20 seconds. All right, I'll stop this now. So it looks like there's really a tie between spreadsheets and Google Earth. I'll stop sharing. I believe there's a second poll. I'll go through this. So what do you do? How do you currently document? What do you do currently document? So what are you currently documenting or looking to document with a tool like NetStream, for example? Is it mostly outside plants? Are you looking to document your data center room, all the connections inside your data center rooms? Are you looking to document all your office floors, all the wall jacks inside all the different rooms inside your buildings? How far deep do you want to go down? So I'll leave this for another 10 seconds. All right, I'll end the poll here, show results. It looks like the clear winner is outside plants, as well as some data center connections. So I'll stop sharing this. All right, so next part of the webinar, I'll have Jason go through a very quick high level of NetStream outside plants. We'll talk more specifically outside plants, maybe touch upon a little bit about the data center connections, data center connections inside the cabinet, outside the cabinet. And then after that, I'll go through your Q&A. So I'll stop my share and I'll pass it off to Jason.
All right. All right, thanks. You guys should see my screen. My screen's it's kind of blank. It's just sort of a white space there. I got this little thing called Excel import in the corner, but let's talk about kind of using the tool a little bit. So instead of just PowerPoint, or anything like that, we'll get into using the software. I'm gonna first start with, since there's outside plant, we'll do a little bit of map stuff. Maybe kind of come down here to Baltimore area. You can do a search, by the way, Baltimore. Look for Baltimore. Right, there we go. Okay. So this one's got satellite. We can switch if you want a different sort of layer. Light, I think. Yeah. So you don't really need to see the satellite view. There's different map options you can put in there. You can actually go out and find different maps that you might want to use. It's up to you. But so let's bring in, create a couple buildings. I don't know where I'm at right now, but as far as this location, I'm just gonna drop a few objects in to represent the buildings. The objects I'm bringing in, they don't have to be like these particular icons or objects. They could be, you could have different ones. Like I use a lot of sort of see-through objects, because if you're doing something like a satellite, you're going to see the building anyway, but or we might do cutouts where it happens to be, but I'll just put in here B101. There's my building. And I'll put in this building called B102, right? And if you had manholes or handholds, of course, you go over to your catalog and grab something and maybe drag that in. So get a kind of feel for that. As far as laying stuff in, you want to put in fiber cables and things like that. You may start with something like a conduit. You don't have to, but if you are going to document, cables and conduits or pathways, where it happens to be, you can do that too. Now I'm doing some drag and drop. There's also shortcuts for this, so I could do a Control C, Control L kind of thing and add. So you see, if I want to do pathway, I can add bend points. So these basically these things follow a specific path, right? So that's always kind of nice to be able to do. So maybe there's a whole bunch of things like that. So it's not perfect, but you get the idea. You could put more bend points in if I want to. I could right click here and do a bend point, add another one. So if I need to be more precise, you can get sort of into that. Anyway, inside the building, if I want to come in here and maybe add a floor or a room, I could certainly do that, or just go straight to adding equipment. You don't have to put equipment in cabinets or in rooms or floors or anything like that, for that matter. But I'm going to go ahead and add a patch panel. Just kind of see how this works. And why don't we call this B101 PP1, just because it's patch panel 1. And I'm going to go grab a card. I'll drag and drop a card in here. So I'll get a card. And then we'll jump out, come into this build. Oh, you know what I could do? I could actually just do what's called a copy plus. And then I'll just drop that in here and paste it. All right. So then if I want to bring in some fiber cable between this and the other patch panel, I can do that, but maybe inside my manhole, maybe we've got maybe a CommScope device or something that's in here. It's going to be my splice case. So let's jump inside here, grab a card, add a card in here. So now I got a card case. I got a butterfly. I didn't really show that, but there's a butterfly drawn in here. So it's kind of up to you and how you sort of approach these things, these sort of objects. Oh, I must have, oops, sorry. So the next step is really just to come in here and start to do my my connections, right? So I can do that. First, let me go back to this CommScope device here. I made this thing really, really tiny. So let me change the size of this thing to be a little bit more appropriate. Because when I dragged it in, I must have been zoomed in like at 10,000%. So there, that's better. Now we can actually see it. All right, there we go. So something like that. And then I'm gonna bring in some fiber cable between these. So between the two patch panels, I'm gonna create a fiber connection. I'll do a 12-strand fiber cable. Right, close this. Although actually I should have done maybe the fiber. That's since I put the box in here, let's do it this way. Let's do a 12-strand and a 12-strand. So we'll do 12-strand between these two guys. Here we go. It's better. All right. So now I got a 12-strand fiber. I want this 12-strand to be inside this, well, related to it. It's not technically going to be inside of it, but this is my conduit, right? So I'm going to say bundle, copy links. I'm going to right click on this guy, do a duplicate from containers. So it follows the same path, right? Here's my other fiber cable. And I'll right click and I'll do the same thing, bundle with fiber. Say containers, there we go. So now I've got two fiber cables, two conduits. The fiber cables are bundled into the conduit, so I can click on a conduit and understand what's inside the conduit. In fact, I'm going to filter out, just look at my conduit there. And on the left-hand side, it says bundled links, and it's going to tell me that I have a 12-strand fiber cable in there. So I'll go back. And now let's create some connections with our strands. So I'm going to do 12-strand fiber. And I'm going to click on this guy and I'm going to open up the strand interface. I'm going to click on this and I'm going to say, okay, well, B1 to 1-1. So that's inside the CommScope. So I'm going to go from the B side to the one. So the B side is actually inside my patch panel. So if I go look at that, I can open that up so you can see what I'm doing here. So I just put a strand right here. And this is a card that's inside that patch panel, and it's got two because there's a back and a front. So this would normally go down to like a switch or something, right? So close that. But just so you can see now, this side, if I click on it, you'll see that I'm actually inside the splice case. So here's the splice case right here, 1-1. So I'm on the 1-1 side there. So I'll connect a couple of these up. We'll do like 6 maybe, and then I'll close this out. And then if I come over here to this fiber cable, and I click on it and I go, okay, here's my patch panel. I can also go from the B side, but on this side, I'm going to go from the 2 side. So we'll do 6 of those and I'll close that out and close that out. So now I should have a path from this building to this building through here if I did things correctly. And how will I know? Well, there's a way we can do that. I can jump down in here and I can do a CLR from one of these. So that's a circuit layout record. That's a physical path from one patch panel to the other through the manhole. How can we do that? Well, I can just double click the link and then we'll see what we get. So there we go. We have, this is the patch panel inside the building. That's the card. And this is the port. That's the strand out of one of those cables. And that connects to the CommScope and it goes out of the CommScope, because the CommScope would have an in and out, obviously, because it's a strand, right? Comes in, goes out. It's fused together, right? Then you have another strand, that's the other cable, and goes to the other building. So you go B1, B102 through the manhole to B101. And there you go. That's how you start to generate your documentation from the standpoint of doing fiber, right? If you're doing outside plant. Now, so there's the map. I can zoom in on that, and I can change my map again if I want to. Let's go back to this one here. Yeah, whatever. It's gonna sort of identify where these things are. So I just changed my map, but it's fine. Anyway, let me go and show you guys some existing documentation. Now, the thing I just did is I obviously manually created a bunch of that stuff. I went in there and dragged and dropped, which is fine. But when you're talking about hundreds of buildings, lots of data and all that stuff, you do have the option of doing something like an Excel import, where you have a format you follow and you just put the data in that, import it, and it creates all the stuff. So anything in this project you can pretty much create from Excel. In fact, most of this project was created from Excel import. You can do discovery if you want to do an SNMP discovery, but a lot of times some of the outside plant devices aren't necessarily discoverable via SNMP, so that's kind of a point. But you can see some of these maps where I'm dragging through, like here, I got obviously satellite, multiple buildings, again, connections, manholes, etc. Now, level of detail is up to you. I mean, you can have something like a building where you show multiple floors, you show floor plans, you show cabinets, equipment in the cabinets, you know, where things located on the floor plan. This would be a cabinet. This one has a front and back elevation. I got all the different equipment. I can jump down inside of a device and look at it with all the ports and cards and how everything's basically connected. So again, do you need cabinets? No, not necessarily, because it might just be you just care about the core devices that make up the fiber backbone. So you just want to show the device in a room, or not even in a room, just in the, here's the building, here's the device in the building. Or maybe you just want the device sitting outside the front of the building or something, you know, it's up to you. We don't sort of enforce that or say you have to do it this way, right? I mean, certainly there are some rules, but kind of gives you an idea. And you can track, obviously, fiber cables and strands if you use an outside plant. If you're doing, that's out and in. So any kind of fiber cables and strands you can take care of if you want to. Power, so if you want to track power, you can certainly do that, or just regular Ethernet cables and telephone cables and whatever. There's really no limit. You know, I mean, it's just a link type for us in the catalog. So, but you can kind of see some of the details when you start to get into it. Floor plans. So if you want to put a floor plan in, show things like rooms and equipment in rooms, you can certainly do those things too. But that's, you know, depends on obviously what you're trying to do. Some of that can be a lot of data, a lot of detail, and you may not have that. So if you want to stick with the core of fiber backbones and that kind of thing, this is kind of set up to do that sort of stuff. And again, you could do Excel import of data. Of course, you can manually do things. You can, again, do things like SNMP discovery or integrate with other systems. We have some connectors to things like ServiceNow and SolarWinds, and some other systems out there. Certainly talk to you about anything that you're using or doing. We've got a bit of experience with some different things out there, tools. So the reason I showed you in the beginning kind of how you use the tool a little bit, just to give you a feel for sort of the flexibility of the tool. You know, you're doing drags and drops, and you've got cables and things. You can create connections and make things look hopefully like your environment, right? Like sort of the real world as built type documentation that you might want to explore and get into. So I will say too, objects, you know, that you bring in from the catalog, they do have data fields. Those are user definable. The links have data fields that also you can put your own fields in. Very easy to do. Literally, if you're a power user administrator, I can come over here and say, I want to add a new field called comment, or well, since I don't have a comment field, I'll just say comment. Submit, and then it adds that field for that object type. So all objects of that specific type. So this particular cable type, which is a pathway, will now have a comment field that I can input data into. So you don't need a DBA or some, you know, something fancy, or it's not critical. You don't need a team of consultants to add one data field, right? You know, we try and make it somewhat flexible and easy for the users day to day. There are security things from the standpoint of different user roles. You can have read only as an editor, power user. They obviously mean different things. So you do have, you know, some controls there as far as who has accessibility and what they can do in the system. So anyway, that's all I really kind of wanted to talk about. Let me see if there's any questions out there. If you guys have questions, there's a Q&A button, chat. One of those you can throw a question into. We do have other sort of things built into the software as well. Certainly things for like reporting. So you can bring up a reporting tool. This is the dashboard reporting engine where you can see, you know, various bits of data and open up table views of data and export that to CSV. So those things you can certainly use. That's, I think, related to DCIM, but there's also a built-in kind of reporting tool where I can go to tools, query, and do a query build and put in some parameters and save the report. So if I want to generate something like a maintenance report, I can do that and submit it, get a list of, you know, when things are expiring and that sort of thing. But that's something users can create on the fly, and you have to be a certain user type, but it can be helpful. It helps you get data out of the system. So there's different export options and tools as well. Of course, you can have read-only users come in, but you can do things like you mentioned, import, export, and so on. I prefer sort of PDF exports or reports myself. There are some options for Visio import and export, but they're, depending on what you're trying to do, maybe limited as far as like import, because obviously we're a little bit different than Visio, because we have a concept of, you know, predefined devices with ports and cards and so on. So it's a little different than a stencil, but or static exports. And technically you can do KMZ's imports. So if you're doing something in Google Earth, you want to bring it over as kind of a reference, you could do that too, depending on what it is you're trying to do. It may not be the right fit. I don't know. You have to kind of talk to us or just try it out and see, kind of go from there. So, all right, that's what I had. I don't see any questions. So what I would say is if you guys have more specific questions, you want to try something out, you should just get back in touch with us. Fred's going to bring up the trial, talk about that, or I can talk about it. So you can reach out to sales. Anyway, Fred, you go ahead.
Yeah. So if this seems interesting, if you want to check it out, try net training out for 14 days. We do have an online website. So NetTrain can be installed on an on-premise basis, or we also have a SaaS solution as well. For this online trial, it is our SaaS solution. Again, we do offer both on-premise as well as SaaS. So if you want to try it out 14 days, this is the website. It's https://www.nettrain.us. If you need any assistance, feel free to reach out to me. Again, my name is Fred Koh. It's fred.koh, fred.koh at graphicalnetworks.com. And thank you so much. Thanks, Jason, for your time, for doing the demo. And thank you, everyone, for your time today.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. I appreciate it. And yeah, reach out if you got questions. Take care. Bye-bye.